So we're talking about Alla Nazimova. This is a person. No H, Alla, A-L-L-A. Like all aboard. Or as she was born in 1879 in Yalta, Miriam Edez Adelaida Leventon.
Love it. Rolls off the tongue the way falling downstairs is rolling.
Falls off the tongue like my tongue falls out after I fall down the stairs. So she was born into a Jewish family. Both of the seeds of our stories were from little Jewish kids.
Yeah, we just have a lot of Jewish pride.
Yeah, you and me. I mean, you especially. I've never met anyone more proud to be Jewish than Greg Gonzalez. So she was born into a Jewish family to an abusive dad and a philandering mom. So when they mercifully broke up when she was young, she was sent to a Swiss boarding school. After school, she made the shameful decision to get into the salacious world of Russian acting, a decision her dad allowed her to make, but forbade her from using her family name until she got good because he didn't want to be embarrassed by her. So now she went by the name we know her as, Alla Nazimova.
Wow.
He made her change her name because he didn't want, like,
that
hey, is that your daughter who I saw in a stage play in Siberia? Niet.
Yeah, she got her cues wrong, and she doesn't really know how to block. She's bad at just standing in front of people. That's not my daughter. She has a different name altogether.
Oh, that's Alla Nazimova.
That's so relatable. Like, change your name until you're good. There's something about that's like doing the Rolodex through my memories right now. Like, it feels like a thing that happens a lot.
I mean, one day, once we get big enough, if we get enough supporters on Patreon, Greg will go back to his birth name.
Yeah, my birth name, which is, I can't say right now, but I'm in the Bush family.
He does have a middle initial. You might have heard of him. So Alla was a nickname for one of her names, Adelaida Alla.
Oh.
And Nazimova was the name of the main character in a book she liked called Children of the Streets. I mean, this is a Russian child.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like, this is a Russian young adult series is still very sad.
Yeah. Oh, Daddy, can I play with my favorite piece of coal today?
But Daddy had died 3 days ago, and I was talking to just a coat on a
I was talking to a Cossack. So luckily, her unbelievably oppressive and, let's be frank, Russian dad died. So she was shuffled around between family members in Moldova and then Ukraine until she got into the big time and went to study acting at the Moscow Arts Theater under Konstantin Stanislavski, the creator of the method acting technique. And through them, she toured around Russia acting in various stage shows. So she learned from like literally the best.
Yeah. She learned Del Close method through Del Close.
Basically.
Yeah.
She also studied the Kaminsky method, whatever that means. And then she got on the wrong side of the people on the wrong side of history. Being Jewish, she was cast in a show about the oppression of Jews in Russia called The Chosen People.
Right.
That the powers that be in Russia warned them to stop performing. When they didn't, their show was forcibly shut down by the police, so they left Russia and took the show to the perpetually tolerable city of the Jewish plight, Berlin.
Oh my God.
But this
show's going on the road because it has to.
To the safest place for Jewish people in the late 1800s. This was long before Germany went as cuckoo as a clock in the Schwarzwald. So the show became a hit, and Alla became a recognizable name for
Berlin
this show.
Berlin loves Jewish people, and it will forever.
Yeah, they had a big neon sign that just glowed Jews. They still use that sign, but it meant a different thing a few years later. So they were a hit in Berlin, so this allowed them to take the show to Europe's big stage, London. And from there, they were able to take it to the world's big stage, America. The Chosen People opened on Broadway at the Herald Square Theater in New York City on March 23rd, 1905, starring Alla Nazimova.
Wow.
So this solidified her...
She could almost take her real name.
I know. Her dad from Beyond the Grave.
Yeah.
You can have your name back when you're starring in Hollywood. And then when she's starring in Hollywood.
How much did it gross?
You can have your name back when you're a big star on TikTok.
Domestic or international? No, not yet. Are you the biggest face on the poster?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not yet.
Did it beat Titanic? The boat?
Is there a spinoff? Oh, no, not yet. Not yet.
So this solidified her as a major name in theater, especially given her method acting and her look. So she was like people hadn't seen this sort of thing, like a dark Jewish Russian girl who was doing like Marlon Brando style acting.
Okay.
Like people, this was crazy to people.
Yeah.
Who, think of Fred Mertz doing a performance on stage. The duality, the comedy tragedy mask.
Yeah.
On one side, there's Alla Nazimova. The other side, there's Fred Mertz.
Yeah, William Frawley. Yeah.
No, Fred Mertz.
Specifically Fred Mertz. William Frawley's a great actor. Fred Mertz is not.
So from this, she started doing other Broadway shows. And from that, she started touring the country doing shows, making her a nationwide name in American theater among the greats like John Wilkes Booth. A great
and
American
other people
stage.
had great aim.
She never missed her mark.
That's one guy who you can't ask to do the Gettysburg Address in front of people. He would get kind of mad about it.
In prison.
Yeah.
At the open mic at prison. What, did he die? Was he killed? Did he go to prison or was he?
He was killed.
Was he? Like by a posse or something?
Yeah, wasn't he? Didn't he like burn down in a barn or something?
I don't know. I don't know how he went out like Scarface.
Everything cooled down. So he's like, I'm going to go to the theater real quick.
He sneaks into a building not realizing where it is. And he's like, I'll just sit in this little.
On this here.
And it's like the murder scene where
Yeah.
he killed Abraham Lincoln. Say hello to my little brother who was also an actor after him.
And who did he save? Abraham Lincoln's son?
No, yeah. One of Abraham Lincoln's son was like about to be hit by a train or something.
Yeah.
And John Wilkes Booth's brother, was it?
I think
Saved
so.
him?
Yeah. I think that's how it goes.
Well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So anyway, she met Teddy Roosevelt. she met Grover Cleveland. She met Rudyard Kipling, Mark Twain, and she slept with a ton of men. Probably not those ones, but other men. She helped her family, well, I don't know, maybe Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah.
She helped get her family out of the hellhole that Russia was and continues to be becoming when her sister's husband died. So she brought her and her kids, her nieces and nephews, to move in with her in New York. This family changed their last name to Luton, and the son grew up to be Val Luton, who's the producer of Cat People, among other sci-fi movies.
You are kidding.
No, it's that weird.
Wow, really?
Yeah, she brought them over from Russia, and he became
Val Luton.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Also not related to anything, but crazy. This is one of two crazy, weird tributaries that this story takes that we're just going to have to back out of those back into the main storyline.
That's fine.
She also opened up her own theater called Nazimova's 39th Street Theater on April 18th, 1910. But in 1915, her life changed forever. Louis Selznick saw her in a play and hired her to make a short movie of one of her one-act shows. It made a huge profit. So in 1917, he signed her to a 5-year deal, but his company was preparing to make a big move all the way out west to a sleepy little Pueblo town named Hollywood.
Well, you see, Thomas Edison invented cameras with some friends.
And John Wilkes Booth,
his
little brother saved the baby camera. It was a crazy
the baby
story.
camera's brother was Val Luton? I'm trying to remember it.
And his brother was Val Kilmer? So as part of his stable of stars moving out to Hollywood, Alla Nazimova was following him out west.
Okay.
And she became a massive silent movie star in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So massive that any decision made on one of her movies had to get her approval.
Oh my God.
And she was being paid $3,000 more a week than the other massive female movie mogul, the old movie mogul herself, Mary Pickford. Picky Mayford herself. So she was making more money than Mary Pickford in her heyday. But where would a massive movie star putting Mary Pickford to shame live? Most movie people lived in Silver Lake or West Adams, but she wasn't really into that. Hollywood as an area was only just becoming a thing, so that was out. And Beverly Hills didn't allow Jews, so bad luck again. The Berlin of Los Angeles.
We all know it. We're all scared to say it. Hollywood was a developing ghetto at the time.
But that nether stretch between what was becoming Hollywood and what was the absolute worst of Beverly Hills' many worst eras was just right for her. In particular, 8080 Sunset Boulevard, which is now 8152. Address
Number
has changed.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard, right on what is now Crescent Heights, across from the AMC Sunset, which was always there. So that like the thing that turns into like Laurel Canyon.
Wait. So it's around Chateau Marmont?
It's near there,
okay.
But it's you know where that like mall across the street from there.
My coworker Kyle got his car broken into at that Sunset AMC recently.
Well, don't go blaming Alla Nazimova, okay?
Where was she?
Does he have A-list? Because that wouldn't have happened if he had A-list. They have security watching your car if you have A-list.
So on that same side that Chateau Marmont is on that block there?
No. So Chateau Marmont is on the north side.
Oh, you're talking about the mall where the McDonald's used to be that they knocked down?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Keep in mind the phrase knocked down. So this was a 3.5 acre...
She lived in a McDonald's? No, go ahead.
McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken and a Pizza Hut. So this was a 3.5 acre home named Havenhurst McDonald's. It was called Havenhurst after the man who built it, William Hay, who is the guy who designed the whole neighborhood there in general. This is why the street near there is called Havenhurst. They dropped the Y. And why there's also another street nearby called Hayworth. It's also where the one in the valley, Havenhurst, got its name, but we were respectful enough here to keep the Y. And speaking of respectful, it's also the name of the house that the Jacksons lived in Encino.
Oh my
That house was
God.
also called Havenhurst.
Bizarre.
On Havenhurst.
On Havenhurst.
So the house had 40 rooms with 12 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms and cost him $200,000.
Oh my God.
He built it, which, to live that close to an AMC,
McDonald's coming soon. Sign.
even better.
Yeah. That sign was up for 30 years.
And the A-list was just all the celebrities would come to his house. So he built this house in 1913 for he and his wife to live in, but their marriage quickly dissolved. So by 1915, the whole house was empty.
What am I doing with all these rooms? Am I going to build a harem now? I don't know how to talk to women.
I built a house with 12 rooms for a married couple to live in. So
It's for us to fight in.
Yeah, we have 12. You have 11 different rooms to sleep in if you're mad at me. Don't divorce me. So Hay didn't know what to do with this place. So with World War the First one raging, he did the noble thing because he couldn't find anyone who would rent it and allowed the Red Cross to use it as a headquarters.
A hero.
But once the war was over, they were out on the streets because now there was money to be made.
And there'll never be another war again. Hear that, Buster?
Red Cross shut down.
Take that, Franz Ferdinand.
And that money was coming out of the pockets of maybe the biggest starlet in Hollywood looking for a place to live, a la Nazimova.
Hell yeah.
She nabbed the place from the Red Cross and started renting it as her home, but then bought it outright in August 1919 for $65,000. What a great flip on Hayes.
Yeah, for sure.
And then pumped even more money into it, remodeling the whole thing. She revamped the house and the garden full of orange trees, cedars, palms, birds of paradise, poinsettias, a lily pond, and most importantly, she put in a giant 65-foot by 45-foot pool that people said was shaped like the Black Sea of her homeland, but she denies that was the idea.
Weird.
Now, this was being built either concurrently or slightly before Pick Fair over in Beverly Hills,
okay.
where the Goys could live.
Yeah.
Which claims to have Pick Fair, as we recall, claims to have had the first private residence pool in the city.
Right.
So there's going to have to be some deep diving, get it? ChatGPT, into which of these pools were finished first.
Oh, right.
Was it a la Nazimova's?
Is this the Coles, Philippe's of
It kind
rich
of
people?
is, yeah, of pools.
Yeah, pools.
But I like the spicy pool.
It's more of a dinner pool.
But a la Nazimova's does lay claim to being the biggest pool.
Okay.
So,
No question there.
yeah, it's the Philippe's. But a la Nazimova can't live at a place called Havenhurst like some Jackson. She needed to give it a name of her own. So going off of the name of a popular book by Robert Smythe Hitchens called The Garden of Allah. So as is the tradition in naming things in LA, she went with the pun and named it the Garden of Allah without the H, much like Havenhurst without the Y.
Very funny.
So the Garden of Allah was a pun.
I think like pun titles are really
People love it.
bad. And
I think hang on, wait, I'm getting some feedback. You must have some sort of, is your pacemaker going off or something? Because you said something mean.
Yeah. I think the rabies is taking effect. Can you drink water? If you can't drink water, then you have rabies, and that explains why you're being mean.
So now Allah had her garden to live in. But we're going to get Al Jazeera is never going to run this. So she had her garden to live in, but she was still stuck in Dawn of Hollywood, and there was kind of nothing around that area, which she hated. She hated the lack of culture in LA, which was something you could say 100 years ago, but not today. So stop. So she decided to create a haven of culture within her own home.
Haven of culture. This star is banging this star. Culture.
Oh, man. Just wait, Craig. I mean, you talk about stars banging stars. Start thinking stars banging stars banging stars.
That's how you get a Big Bang Theory. That's how you get a young Sheldon.
It was no theory. This theory was proven. The proof was irrefutable.
It's the kind of proof that Eddie Mannix has to snuff out.
She started a women's group called the 8080 Club after her address.
It hadn't invented 69 yet.
Oh, you've never 80'd?
You never 80 before? You never went 80 for Brady before?
So they would meet every Saturday night to talk about challenging artistic and social things. The top female artists in all the arts in Hollywood and European expats would come over, and they talk and drink and talk and drink.
Yeah.
Alla would walk around smoking cigarettes out of a foot-long ebony cigarette holder.
Oh my
that's the sort of
God.
place. It was all very highbrow, eyebrow.
Norma Desmond?
But their brains weren't the only things being stimulated. There was another element to these social salons that set the stage for what this place mostly became known for the rest of its history.
Okay.
Alla Nazimova was married for a second time to a man, but she was by no means faithful and she was by no means straight.
She takes after her mother.
Wait, yeah, I guess so. I didn't think about that.
I notice patterns. I'm a guy who notices patterns.
Wait a minute. I think I just had a breakthrough. I'm going to cry.
I got to call my mom real quick.
I gotta go cheat on my wife real quick. So around 1915, she realized, I like women as well as men. And her constantly being cheated on husband just kind of went with it.
These two became super cool. These two people in the story just became official Los Angeles residents.
You live in Hollywood for 3 years and all of a sudden,
everyone's kissing everybody.
You get one AMC A-list pass and then it's just all morals are out the window. So this 80/80 Club wasn't just an intellectual gathering for the elite women of Los Angeles. It was also a safe haven for all the lesbians and bisexual women in town who were forced to stay in the closet to come and be themselves, both in ideas and also sexually.
And in the flesh.
Or outside of the flesh. They were skeletons.
Yeah.
Alla came up with the code of referring to these safe gatherings for queer women as sewing circles.
Okay.
And these Saturday night gatherings always turned into Sunday afternoon all-women pool parties where clothing was 100% optional.
Okay.
So a lot of horny stuff was happening at the Garden of Allah, and the titular Allah herself's rumored list of, to put it delicately, horny conquests. My God. Listen to this.
Okay.
Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, Anna Mae Wong, Oscar Wilde's niece, both of Rudolph Valentino's wives.
Oh my God.
Not everybody at these gatherings were gay, and one person they went out of their way to say that she didn't have an affair with, which makes me think they definitely had an affair, was Nancy Reagan's mom.
Oh, wow.
They hung out because Mother Nancy Reagan, was a radical feminist, which is why Alla Nazimova, here's the other detour, Alla Nazimova was Nancy Reagan's godmother.
What?
Yeah, really weird.
Weird.
Similar to Pick Fair, the Garden of Allah became a Hollywood hub, but different from Pick Fair, it was exclusively women and mostly gay women. And for that, it was more intellectual than Douglas Fairbanks running around in knight's armor or whatever was going on at Pick Fair. Like it was like people having intelligent conversations and then having an orgy.
Yeah.
Not just the orgy.
And not just Douglas Fairbanks nude jogging.
Right. But it didn't take long for these two places to become more similar than not. Neither Allah nor her decoy husband were good with their money, which was not good not long after she bought this house when Allah's career started to tank. Her studio contract ended in 1921 and she decided to start financing her own movies, which lost her a ton of money. So she needed help managing her finances. So in May 1924, she hired a couple named Jean and John Adams, not that one, to be her business managers. At this point, her biggest financial asset was the Garden of Allah. So Jean and John Adams convinced her to convert, let's call it the Garden of Moses, the Garden of Judas. They convinced her to convert it into a hotel that she could make money off of forever. So this is exactly what she did. The house was turned into guest rooms and a hotel and bar, and 25 two-story bungalow villas were added throughout the gardens, like personal places to stay. Few people actually stayed in the main house, and even fewer spent time in the restaurant, because the real draw were these private bungalows that were going for between $200 to $400 a month, because this wasn't a hotel, like I said, in the modern sense.
Yeah.
This was like extended stay. I live in a hotel in the era I'm going to spend a night at the YMCA sort of thing.
Sure.
So it was a place to stay long-term for people just coming to LA or in LA temporary to make it in showbiz, or celebrities who were between marriages.
Right.
Like this was kind of, if you didn't want to commit to buying a house, you would live here for months at a time.
Okay.
And these bungalows were great because you had your own place and easy access to the pool, which boasted the longest extension cord in the world.
Back then, you could brag about that.
It was 4 feet. The grand opening was January 9th, 1927, with an 18-hour-long party attended by the likes of John Barrymore, Marlene Dietrich, and Jack Dempsey.
God, you couldn't get rid of Marlene Dietrich.
No, she did she work? Like, did she? You drive around Los Angeles at like 11 o'clock on a weekday, and you're like, does anyone have a job here? It was always like this. Like Marlene Dietrich is just serving sandwiches to veterans and partying up at the Gardens of Allah.
Didn't sleep a wink.
Where is my Little Rascal shorts, Marlene Dietrich?
You're too good at hanging out with Hal Roach?
Also, Japanese butlers, whatever that means. I guess maybe it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Colorful lights at night, and what sounded like a mariachi band was playing.
The ghost of a mariachi band?
The first guest to actually check in there was an actress named Madeline Herlock. So the deal was that the hotel had a 99-year lease from Nazimova, who would get $14,500 a month and 50% of the profits. And within a year of the place opening, Nazimova was bankrupt.
Oh my God.
Not because of the lack of success of the hotel, but because Gene and John Adams were con artists.
Oh no.
Nazimova never got any of her payments, and then Gene and John both disappeared. It turned out they were wanted for a similar real estate fraud in the Midwest, so now all of Nazimova was ruined.
Oh my God.
And on July 17, 1928, she was forced to sell the place back to its original owner, William Hay, for $80,000. This guy's like bad businessman.
Yeah.
Like, charge her more.
Yeah.
Take advantage of this destitute actress.
Ask for her bones.
$80,000 and teach me the Kaminsky method. But after all her debts were settled, she was left with $7,500 to her name.
Jeez.
Sad ending for Alla Nazimova, but the story of the Garden of Allah was just beginning. Hay revamped the hotel and reopened it on September 28th, 1928 with even more bungalow villas, but then he flipped it to the Central Holding Company in 1929, who revamped it again, bringing the number of bungalow villas to 38.
Wow.
They actually had bigger plans to build a giant high-rise tower with 300 hotel rooms and a theater to get ready for the 1932 Olympics, but that never materialized. What they did add, however, was an H to the end of the name, so now it wasn't the Garden of Allah, it was the Garden of Allah.
Yeah, it wasn't a pun anymore.
No, it was just religious.
Yeah.
Which Allah with no H was not happy about, and I'm sure the Allah with H was also not happy about, knowing that
No one was happy.
But this was when the Garden of Allah entered its truly golden age. And by golden, I mean most deranged. Because of its luxury and relative seclusion from the rest of the city, this place became a magnet for celebrities. Like I said, people in town for showbiz stuff would take their extended stays here. People would perform at the Coconut Grove. They'd stay at the Garden of Allah. They even had guards patrolling the grounds to make sure looky-loos weren't sneaking around gawking at the entertainment elite that were staying there.
Jeez.
It was a place where the artists of Hollywood could go to complain to each other about how Hollywood was ruining their art.
Oh my God. Great.
And because
so authors.
Well, I mean, you know who stayed here.
Was it Faulkner or Fitzgerald?
Maybe both of them, but definitely one of them.
Okay. I remember that's how I first became aware of the place. Yeah.
So because of this clientele, it became a total den of debauchery. Lots of drugs, lots of nudity. The best way to convey what this place was like is to just give you a long catalog of some of the guests that lived there and some stories about what they did while they were here. This is
what I'm here for.
This is like, we've often talked about the jazz anecdotes book that we had to read in our jazz class that just told like crazy stories about different jazz musicians. There's a whole book I have on my desk over there written by, I think, not Hedda Hopper, but like one of those people about just like the weirdest things that happen at the Garden of Allah.
I gotta see this. Okay.
So let's read silently for a few minutes. So you had your Ramon Navarro, Al Jolson, Raymond Chandler, Cole Porter, Gloria Swanson, Laurence Olivier, Vivian Lee, Jackie Gleason, Burl Ives, Ernst Lubitsch, Ernest Hemingway, David Niven, John Carradine, Orson Welles, Ronald Reagan the actor, Ginger Rogers. Let's just say Ginger Rogers.
Like, just pick a name out randomly.
Frank Sinatra, Ava Gardner, Artie Shaw, Leopold Stokowski, W. Somerset Maugham. F. Scott Fitzgerald, of course, wrote The Last Tycoon while he stayed there.
Yeah.
Errol Flynn had almost as many affairs there as he'd had cocaine. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall would have their trysts there before they were married. One time, Bogart's wife barged in on them and chased him around the grounds with a knife.
She was a psycho, so that sounds like that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah. Blame the victim of
oh my God.
Humphrey Bogart's banging around with Bacall.
Beautiful sentence you just said.
Bogart bangs Bacall. Print it. While he was filming The Hunchback of Notre Dame, here's my Charles Laughton story.
Yeah.
He would float in the pool on his breaks to cool down in full Quasimodo makeup.
Quasimodo's day off.
Quasimodo goes west. Quasimodo's day off and he's with the Phantom of the Opera. Quasi, we've got to turn back the odometer on my dad's coach.
He's going to totally flip out that I took his horses.
It was his favorite Mustang. So one morning, Tommy Dorsey Okay, I was debating whether or not I should put this story in because it's gross. One morning, Tommy Dorsey was arguing with another band leader named Kay Kaiser about who had a more rabid fan base. And to make his point, Tommy Dorsey called out 2 naked women from his bedroom who had the letters T and D shaved into their pubic hair. Like, there's a lot of gross stories like this that came out of this place.
Yeah.
And I'm about to tell you all of them.
Yeah. Did you ruin Tommy Dorsey for me?
Impossible. 10 reasons why we can't listen to Tommy Dorsey anymore.
That's our ChatGPT title.
Yeah.
That's our YouTube video.
ChatGPT, design me the most clickable article about Tommy Dorsey.
We're going to ruin Tommy Dorsey for TikTok.
You won't believe who shaved what into their what about Tommy Dorsey. So one time, this is my favorite story.
Yeah.
One time, Harpo, maybe my favorite story ever.
You say Harpo Marx, and I'm already like, this is the best story.
Harpo Marx was staying there, and his neighbor was driving him crazy. You'll understand why this is my favorite story. A neighbor was driving him crazy, playing piano at midnight, keeping him up. So, to retaliate, Harpo Marx woke up at 5 a.m. and played Rachmaninoff as loud as possible, and the guy next door changed bungalows that morning. Turned out, the guy he chased out was Rachmaninoff.
How that did not end up in a Marx Brothers movie, I'll never know. That is so funny.
It's really, the Marx Brothers meet Rachmaninoff. So Dorothy Parker had welcome mats on both sides of her bed.
Very funny.
The acknowledged master of ceremonies there seemed to be Robert Benchley, which, you know Robert Benchley?
That name sounds really familiar.
You might be thinking of the guy who wrote Jaws. That's the guy who wrote Jaws is, I think, his grandson. Robert Benchley was like
Dorothy Parker's
he like
man.
yeah, and he like started the Harvard Lampoon, or he was like
Oh yeah, that's
he
right.
was a funny man.
He was a funny man. That's right. That's how I know his name.
He
But
made Yuck Yucks.
but he was with Parker.
Yeah,
for
they were the
most of-
Algonquin part of the like main 2 of the Algonquin Round Table.
Yes.
So Robert Benchley was there also, which is why between him and Parker, the place was referred to as the Algonquin Round Table gone west and childish.
Okay. Okay.
One night, Benchley was forced to play a game of charades, which he hated. So when it was his turn to act something out, he got on all fours and he started crawling, and everyone's like, dog, armadillo.
Yeah.
So he just kept crawling. He crawled out the door and just left.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
great. There's a lot of really funny
That is
stories about
so
Robert Benchley. There
great.
was one where this is where Benchley came up with the line that he'd jump in the pool and then get out of his wet clothes and into a dry martini, which was a line appropriated into like 4 different movies that
Right.
they got from Robert Benchley.
That's funny.
And that pool, Greg. Clara Bow.
The it girl herself?
She started the tradition of having nightly cocktail parties by this pool.
Killer.
Every single night, you would go and drink and party by the pool. Anybody
love
who
this.
was anybody would be by that pool, flirting and drinking. Jumping into, being pushed into, or falling into that pool was a rite of passage.
Okay.
Tallulah Bankhead was allegedly made a, quote, very satisfied Jane by Tarzan himself, Johnny Weissmuller, in the pool.
Oh my God.
Other people she was with at the hotel were Barbara Stanwyck, Joan Crawford, and Gary Cooper. One time she got a telegram delivery at her bungalow and she answered the door. She was completely naked with a monkey on her head. And it should be noted the delivery boy handed the telegram to the monkey.
Here's for the adult here.
Grow up.
Grow up.
The place just sounded insane, and it had that reputation. H.B. Warner was the guy playing Jesus in Cecil B. DeMille's The King of Kings, and when Cecil B. DeMille found out that he was staying at the Garden of Allah, he told him, do not leave your bungalow.
They have a dresser there. Put it in front of the door. The door opens inwards. No one can get to you.
Here's wood. Block the windows.
You might end up having sex if you go out the door. Oh, yeah, I'd hate that.
If you hear splashing, don't go out.
Don't look out the window.
Do not. The only splashing I want to hear is when you're cleaning yourself in the bathtub. If it was late at night, you could just walk around the grounds, and if there was a window with a light on in it, that meant a party was going on in there, and you were welcome.
Wow.
Like, you could just go anywhere, and there would always be something. John Barrymore had a
Johnny B. Arrymore.
Johnny B. Bad. He had a bike on the premises for this reason, so he could go from party to party, wasting as little drinking time as possible.
Wow.
Like, he wanted to get as quickly
Yeah.
as he could to the next
My
drink.
legs aren't working good enough.
But it was also a community. During World War II, Gloria Stewart, aka the old lady from Titanic,
Oh, right.
the sequel to the actual boat,
Sure.
would collect everybody's ration tickets and use them to go shopping at the Fairfax Farmers Market and make big communal feasts for everybody
Wow, that's
there.
very nice.
Rent and payments were often forgiven or ignored completely. The switchboard operator would purposely drop calls from people trying to reach the celebrities if he didn't like their attitude. And everybody got everything they needed from Schwab's nearby, including the Hershey bar that killed F. Scott Fitzgerald.
That's right. And Nathaniel West died on his way to F. Scott Fitzgerald's funeral. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
That's a little fact that I know.
During its heydays of around 1935 to 45, it was truly one of those legendary old Hollywood places where a lot of the stories we associate with old Hollywood came from. Mm-hmm. They even filmed DOA and In a Lonely Place there.
In a Lonely Place was filmed there?
Yeah. But around 1945 is when things started to kind of sour. That was also the year that Alla Nazimova, who had been allowed to move back in there completely down on her luck in 1941, I think they let her there for free. She died in her room in 1945 after battling cancer and then a heart attack on July 13th. Even by the early 40s, things were kind of looking run down. And as the 40s went on and turned into the 50s, celebrity tastes changed. And an old place like this was no longer in favor, as the celebs of the day preferred to be at a place like the Chateau Marmont right nearby, which is more private and had less of a loud public reputation.
Yeah. Beverly Hills Hotel is also
Hills Hotel.
Like a mile away or something.
Yeah. On top of that, more celebrity and the AMC. Right there.
Yeah, right. It's right there.
Celebs are it's the A-list for a reason.
It's right there. And then McDonald's is coming up any day now.
Oh, it's coming.
They haven't built the structure yet, but I know it's coming.
On top of that, more celebrities were building giant mansions behind big gates and carrying out their debauchery in those private manners rather than in a public hotel.
Which sounds lame.
So it sounds dangerous. So the Garden of Allah started being populated less by genuine stars and more by wannabes or sad hanger-ons.
Right.
In 1957, it was bought by Frank Earhart, who was the general manager of Mocambo on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
And he renovated and expanded. It was still a dump by then. And with a guy like that running the place, the mafia started to get a hand in it. They would sense in sex workers to try to get intel on the celebs that would still hang around there and then use that to blackmail them.
Wow.
So it was like a mafia entrapment place.
Yeah.
There were lots of robberies. I think one of the people working there got murdered.
Jeez.
People were doing drugs, but not in a fun way. Finally, in 1959, it was sold to Lytton Savings and Loan with the intention of demolishing it and building a bank. To give the place a proper send-off, they planned one last party and invited 350 people to come and dress up as the famous guests from the heyday. 1,000 people ended up coming, with most dressed as Rudolph Valentino or Charlie Chaplin or Clara Bow or Mae West, and they screened Nazimova's Salome in her honor, but it was sad. Like, it sounded really sad, and no actual celebrities were there.
Ugh.
Like, it was just kind of a dismal event. In June 1959, the Garden of Allah was razed once and for all. Supposedly, Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi is partially about the Garden of Allah, but she disputed that. But you could pretty much say that about every building ever built in Los Angeles.
I thought it was about Amoeba, but yeah.
I thought it was about the McDonald's. The bank itself became a way less fun landmark in that area in itself, including the McDonald's, was demolished in April 2021 to be made into a giant living, working, playing complex designed by Frank Gehry. But now those plans seem to have fallen through. So now we don't even have a parking lot where Paradise used to be. It's just a big open pit. If you drive by there, it's just dirt.
They knocked down Paradise, and that's the end of the song.
They paved Paradise.
Yeah, they paved Paradise. I came up on La Cienega, hit Sunset because I wanted to take the Sunset Strip down because I wanted to extend my daily commute by an hour. And it really is sad, the things that are like within the last couple of years, like that whole complex is gone. I didn't know it was Garden of Law or whatever, but like that was gone.
You're sad about the McDonald's.
Amoeba.
Yeah.
Sorry, Meltdown, Amoeba,
Viper Room.
Arclight, Viper Room's in danger. You can go online and add your name to a list.
At all costs, protect the AMC, though.
That's all we have.
Tower Records.
Tower Records was the other one.
The shell of Tower Records is now gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like a long stretch of things that used to be.
The thing that the Frank Gehry thing they were going to build actually looked kind of cool and probably would have, we need more housing. It probably, we don't need expensive housing, but it was housing.
Yeah.
It's better than a pit of dirt.
Sure.
Like I would have taken the bank.
Yep. At least people will show up there and park.
So 2 things you can actually do if you want to have more Garden of Allah in your life after hearing all this.
Yeah.
Read that book that I was telling you about.
Get the title for you. Oh, I read the Hollywood Canteen book, a big blue one. I forgot the title, but I get all my information over there. But this one's from Sheila Graham. It's called The Garden of Allah, the story of a crazy, uninhibited hotel where the hotel is the star and the supporting players are the famous guests.
Yeah, it's got a lot of really good stories. But also, another thing you can read is Martin Turnbull's, whose writings, I got a ton of info for this. He has a series of historical fiction novels set at the Garden of Allah, and I think he listens to us. I feel like we've communicated with him before.
Maybe. I don't know if we've communicated with him, but what he does online is fantastic.
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
an Ally History fan, you have to follow Martin Turnbull.
You have to fart.
You have to fart in front of Martin Turnbull.
You're nobody unless you've done that.
I was watching, I've forgotten now. I don't remember what it's called. I was watching it just before I left, but it's on Hulu. It's oh God, I'll have to post it when I remember, but it's like a 6-part series about LA serial killers in the late 70s. And I'm watching it and the different talking heads are coming on and Joan Renner. And I treat Joan Renner like it's seeing like the way people, what's the mascot that everyone freaks out about in Philadelphia? Gritty. I treat her like she's Gritty. Like I freak out. Like, I saw her. She showed up. She's a dead body.
She Googled her eyes at me. Yeah, so Martin Turnbull stuff. Yeah. You can read his books if you want to hear about that. And also, the original sign from the Garden of Allah is up for sale for $50,000. So if you want to get us an early Hanukkah gift, get us both of them.
Split it in 8 pieces. And you can split it up in 8 payments.
We'll light each letter. And Allah would have loved that.
Allah. You can't have a photo of him in your room, but you can buy us that sign.
A giant sign that says Garden of Allah. And yeah, that's the Garden of Allah.
I think I might be thinking of Muhammad.